Welcome to Skincare and Beyond, your new beauty podcast that goes deeper than skin deep. Today I'm joined by Lisa Caddy. Hi Lisa.
Morning.
Nice to see you today. So you are a trichologist and also a brand ambassador for Philip Kingsley. So today we're going to be chatting all about hair health, hair loss. I feel like everybody, skincare always kind of gets the limelight. But obviously Scalp has been like such a big trend recently as well. So really looking forward to kind of diving into that with you. I guess to start with, can you just tell me a bit about what you do and what your role is with Philip Kingsley?
Yeah, sure. Well, this is my 21st year with Philip Kingsley, which is absolutely flown. So I'm a qualified trichologist. I was consulting in our clinic with private patients for many years. I don't do that part of my job anymore, but I'm still very much involved with the clinic. I'm a QVC presenter because our products are we're very proud to have them on QVC. So I do presenting for them. I'm the educational manager. So I used to travel all over the world pre-COVID, training our international partners and distributors and all the new joins who join Philip Kingsley as employees. So I still do all of that. Lots of events, podcasts. So it's brilliant. I'm just, raising awareness of trichology and helping people with their hair as much as I can.
And with, 20 years under your belt, you must know a lot about the brand. You must know everything about the brand at this point.
I like to think there's not a lot I don't know about it, but we can always learn something. So you never know.
Exactly. So why a career in trichology? What kind of engaged you with it? Why was it such an important thing for you?
I never set out to be a trichologist. I set out to be a hairdresser. So
Still linked.
I had a fascination with hair when I was little. In fact, I'm going to show my age now, but I used to have an obsession with those heads, those dolls' heads that kind of grew hair when you turned a handle. They're called girls' worlds back in the day. And I was just always plaiting their hair and cutting it. I would cut my sister's hair, and I really wanted to be a hairdresser. I was fascinated with it, but my parents didn't think that was a really good career choice for me. So I drifted down other paths and then found my way into the hair world with Philip Kingsley 21 years ago, because I started as a sales rep with our brand and talking about our products and selling our products. And I've loved it ever since. I've found my calling, I think, with life, with hair. Yeah, it's great.
Perfect. So did you experience anything in terms of hair loss then? Was that kind of another kind of...
Yes. I mean, when I joined Philip Kingsley, I didn't have hair struggles as such in terms of hair loss conditions, but I'd always had fine hair and it was never my crowning glory. And I would look at other people and with envy and think, oh, she's got long hair, she's got thick hair. So there was always that, why isn't my hair like that? And how can I achieve it? But I have had my own hair loss struggle since. I started to lose hair about 14 years ago, actually. So when I lost my mum unexpectedly and I went through grief and stress and bereavement, I started to see a significant amount of hair fall every time I washed my hair. So I had a lot of hair shedding. I wasn't a trichologist at that point, so I didn't actually realise that I wasn't going to go bald. So that was my biggest fear. I was going to lose all of my hair. That hair loss did self-correct because it is the kind of hair loss condition that passes once the stress has passed. And then I started to struggle with another hair loss condition once I got into my late 40s. So once I hit perimenopause, I started, it triggered genetic hair loss, so female pattern hair loss. It is a progressive condition. And I was a qualified trichologist by the time that happened. I knew that my days of, or my dreams of probably having very long, thick hair were probably over by that point.
Yeah. And obviously you knew, but a lot of people don't understand why it's happening. And, there are so many triggers with hair loss, aren't there? That, there could be a whole host of things going on that you just don't know about.
100%. And there are so many causes of hair loss and so many different types of hair loss as well. So hair shedding is one type of hair loss where you physically see too much hair coming out. Genetic hair loss looks different and it has a different cause. And then you've got hair loss that is maybe caused by medication or contraceptive pills or an autoimmune condition. It's a lot for the average person to unravel and to be able to diagnose themselves, which is why trichology is such an important profession.
Yeah. So did you see kind of a whole range of generations then when you were treating? And
I did, yeah. So I would see young children brought into clinic by their parents who were struggling with patchy hair loss, which you would think wouldn't happen in children, but sometimes they internalize their worries and their anxieties. And that can manifest itself in an autoimmune condition called alopecia areata, which is a hair loss condition which attacks the hair follicles. But then, I would also have a lot of my clients who'd come to me in their 70s or their 80s. And you might think at that point, we've given up caring about our hair by that age, but we really don't. I think hair is so significant to us.
Yeah.
We always care about it. And there's still things you can do to improve your hair at that age.
Yeah, it's a part of your identity, isn't it, almost? You get up every day and you do your hair. It's part of your daily routine and
totally
gives you confidence as well.
It really does. And, Philip Kingsley did coin the phrase bad hair day. And what he meant by that was, you can put your immaculate makeup on and your lovely dress, but if your hair's gone wrong and you look at yourself in the mirror, it has ruined your day. But equally, you can have no makeup on, you can have your old t-shirt on and your trainers with holes in. But if you've just walked out of the salon and your hair is bouncy and glossy, you feel $1 million.
It's the best feeling ever. Yeah. You don't think that you expect it, but when you do get your hair done and you walk out, it does give you that boost. Yeah. It really does.
You feel $1 million, and that is the magic of hair and the psychology of hair. So it can make your day or it can break it, really, pretty much depending on how it's behaving for you.
Absolutely. So what's happening with your body when you're experiencing hair loss? Why is it happening?
So many reasons. Do you know, I'm going to break that down into the two main hair loss conditions that I would see in clinic.
Yeah.
Number one is a condition called telogen effluvium, which is a trichological name for excessive hair shedding. That just means when you're handling or brushing your hair, you see an abnormal amount. So too much going down the plug, too much in your hairbrush. And there are lots of causes for telogen effluvium. It is classed as a temporary hair loss condition. So providing you can find out what's been causing it and you can fix it, the hair loss will correct itself. But anything from thyroid dysfunction to stress to certain medications can cause hair shedding, having a low BMI, crash dieting, nutritional deficiencies. There is a really long list.
Yeah.
And some people can look and think, I've been dieting, I've been fasting, I've not been eating well, or yes, I've been through a really stressful period, and you can attribute your hair loss to something specific and you know what it is. But other clients who would come to see me in clinic would have no clue as to what's causing it. And that's when blood tests can be really useful because we can really pinpoint what's happening.
So with the stress element, why is it that your body just kind of shuts down in that area and it just is like, I can't deal with this at the moment. I've got too much stress going on.
That is almost exactly what happens. Your hair cells or your hair is actually viewed by your body as a non-vital function. We can go about our day, we can function without any hair. And your body knows it's a non-essential tissue. So actually, when you go into stress mode, your body needs all the energy and all the attention, all the focus to keep your vital organs going. And it kind of says, hair, you can go to the back of the queue. We're not going to send any energy there. We can actually save some energy by forcing a number of hairs that are actively growing and taking a lot of energy. We can save some energy by forcing a lot of those hairs into a resting phase where we don't have to give them any energy, and they can stay there for a while and then they'll fall out in 3 months' time. And that's how your body will respond. It's very
That's
clever.
why we need people like you, though. So can you explain the hair growth cycle a little bit? Because I've always heard that you shed more in winter, like autumn, winter time. Is that part of the cycle process?
There is the hair cycle and then there is seasonal shedding.
Okay.
So the seasonal shedding can often happen. We normally say it's kind of spring and autumn. And it's normally a low level shedding. So if you're seeing a significant amount of hair fall around those times, it's probably not seasonal. But we're kind of a bit like animals where we might shed our winter coat in the spring. So that is the seasonal shedding. The hair cycle has 3 distinct phases. There are more phases, but the 3 main ones are your anagen phase. So anagen is an active growing phase where the hairs are growing and growing and growing can be anything between 2 years and 7 years. And it's interesting because a lot of people think or under the impression that one hair will grow and grow and grow. And if we never cut it, it will just grow across the street and we'll just trail behind us.
Like Rapunzel.
I wish, actually. So the anagen phase is where hairs are actively growing. And about 90% of your hairs are in an active growth phase at any one time. These are the hairs that hurt when you pull them. When your hairs have finished their growth phase, so for example, my growth phase, I feel is quite short, maybe 2 years, because I can never get my hair to grow past my shoulders. You've obviously got a longer growth phase than me because your hair's pretty long. So yours might be 4 or 5
Probably
years.
just don't get it cut enough.
And actually, if you could grow your hair even longer, you might have a 6-year growth phase.
Yeah.
So we're all a little bit different in that way. But once hairs have finished their natural growth phase, they go through a transitional phase called catagen. And catagen is literally where the hair follicle, the bulb, is moving away from the blood supply. So it's getting ready for its next phase, which is its telogen phase. And telogen is its resting phase. So that hair follicle has been busy producing cells for 5 whole years without a break. It needs a rest.
God, that's a long time, actually, isn't it?
It is, for it to keep functioning, really demanding. So after those 5 years, for example, the follicle will go into a resting phase. It's holding on to the hair. So you've got a telogen hair in that hair follicle. And when the time is right, which is about 3 months later, so telogen lasts for about 3 months, that hair will fall out. And it'll fall out when you wash your hair or you brush it.
So during that phase, is the hair strand like more dull, and is it different? Does it behave differently?
No, it won't behave differently. It's held in.
Okay.
It's held into the follicle. You know, hairs are dead anyway. So the only living part of the hair is actually in the follicle where the matrix is, where the cells are dividing. So the hair won't look any different or behave different. But one day when you brush your hair, that hair will fall out. But it's fine. It's making way for a new hair to come right behind it. So we have to actually lose between 80 and 100 hairs every day in order for that cycle to keep replenishing itself.
Okay, that makes me feel better, because sometimes I look at my hairbrush and I'm like, there's a lot of hair in there. Okay, perfect. So what ingredients should we be looking for in our kind of everyday hair care?
That is a really interesting one, isn't it? Because when you look at the world of skincare, we're looking out for these key ingredients like hyaluronic acid or salicylic acid or niacinamide, all these retinols.
So many.
So many. It's a little bit different in the hair care world, actually. We kind of, I wouldn't say that there's anything we need to be avoiding particularly. But when it comes to good ingredients in hair care, I would say, you know, you're looking at a formula as a whole. If you have a shampoo that is got silicones quite high up in the list, it may be a shampoo that might dull your hair down over time, because silicones can cling to the hair a bit. Silicones can be useful, but in smaller amounts and lower down that ingredients list, because they're good for detangling.
So it's a bit more of a short-term.
Yes, it is. And it is. So they're good for, you know, on off, they'll wash away. So there's not really much to avoid. But what I think is important is if you look at the formula as a whole. So if you look at a shampoo and actually maybe it's got some sulfates in it, and some people want to avoid sulfates for whatever reason, but actually it's got some moisturizers in there, some protein in there, some conditioning agents in there. Wow, all of that stuff is going to be really good for your hair, and it would counteract any potential downsides of a sulfate in a shampoo. So we're interested in looking at what's that formula like as a whole, and is that going to do your hair some good?
Yeah. Let's go into scalp care then. Obviously, we all wash our hair, but I feel like scalp can sometimes get forgotten about. How important is that in having healthy hair?
Do you know, trichologists have been talking about scalp care forever, but it's becoming more trendy now. And other industries and brands are kind of waking up to the fact that the scalp is intrinsically linked to hair health and hair growth. If we think about it, the hair follicle is a living organ and it lives in the skin of the scalp. The scalp is the home of the hair follicle. It's natural for the health of that scalp to determine the health of that hair and the growth of that hair. It's all linked to one. And so we need to do some things to take care of our scalp. It's certainly a case that we should not be neglecting it, because we don't neglect our face, do we? We take our scalp to all the same places that our face goes. We wash our face every day, but for some reason we feel that the opposite, or we believe that the opposite is true for our scalp. We believe that actually we shouldn't be shampooing and it's detrimental, and our hair will behave better if we don't shampoo. But trichologists will tell you we are advocates of regular shampooing, because who doesn't feel that the hair feels better when they've washed it? It always feels better when you've washed it. You know, you rid your skin, your scalp, of dead skin, of sweat, of sebum, of bacteria, of pollution that's been attracted to the scalp. We get rid of all of that when we shampoo our scalp. The downside to shampooing really frequently can be if you're someone who has to put a lot of heat on your hair. Okay. So it is a balancing act. But my message as a trichologist is always, don't shy away from shampooing. If you want to shampoo and your hair looks and feels better when you've washed it, please do it as often as you want to. Every day if you want to, that's fine.
So treat your scalp the same as your skin, essentially.
Absolutely. And even use products on your scalp that you might use for your skin. Like, You can get a scalp toner, like you get a facial toner, and it tones the pores and it gets rid of oil and it rebalances the skin. You can have the same for your scalp. You would use an exfoliator probably on your facial skin. You can do the same for your scalp, providing it's gentle enough to give you a really deep cleanse. So we definitely, I think because our scalp is hidden under hair, we forget about it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you recommend for someone to do every week then in terms of looking after their scalp?
For sure, I would be shampooing it. I would not be leaving it longer than 3 days to wash your hair. The caveat to that is dependent on hair texture as well. So if you've got a lot of hair, if you've got curly hair, you might want to, consider and balance that up. But I think it's really important for your scalp that you cleanse it regularly. You would use maybe a scalp exfoliator, but not necessarily one that has the gritty bits in, the hard bits, because you can cause abrasions to your scalp. I would definitely use a gentle one with something like salicylic acid in it.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So let's talk a bit about Philip Kingsley. Why do you think their products stand out in the hair care industry compared to other brands? What is it that makes them so great?
Do you know, I just don't think anything beats a trichological brand. I think we've got so many advantages because we are formulating hair care with the knowledge and experience of trichologists. So we know hair science. So we know what hair needs from an ingredient perspective, from a hair texture perspective. But the other thing we're really lucky about is we have our own clinic. Philip Kingsley have our clinic. That means we are seeing real heads of hair come into our clinic. We try and test all of our formulas on real heads of hair. And that message is not always true for all of the brands. A lot of hair care brands will just test their products on hair swatches, not real heads of hair. So we can get feedback in our clinic. A lot of our products have been tested on Mrs. Kingsley herself. And if it passes the Mrs. Kingsley test, it's definitely going to market.
She's like the gold standard.
She is the gold standard. So we're really fortunate that we've got heads of hair that we can test and try and test our products on and get the optimum from our products. If we're not over the moon with the results of a product that we're about to launch, it won't go to launch. We'll reformulate it. So I think it really gives us the edge in that way.
Yeah, I love that you have the clinic. And I've seen, I think, is it Jo Jones that you've helped in the past?
Yes.
And, the transformation is just incredible. So I agree, it needs to be tested on real people and real stories and everyone's journeys. And having that link with the customers as well is so great, isn't it?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so let's go into the science a bit. So can diet and stress impact your hair? And then what food can be damaging for your hair? So
if you think about health, the things that you would avoid because they're not good for you.
Yeah.
I think the same can be said for your hair as well. I don't think there's any particular food where we would say, I wouldn't eat that because it's going to be detrimental to your hair. But if you think about eating maybe ultra processed foods that might not have all the nutrients in that we need, because hair cells are really hungry and they have really high demands when it comes to nutrition. So we need to make sure that we've got all of the nutrients in our food that's got iron in and B12, vitamin D, folic acid, zinc, biotin. And if we're eating a lot of ultra processed foods, maybe they don't contain all the nutrients that we really need. But I think when it comes to scalp health, there are some things that we can be avoiding, because if we suffer from dandruff or eczema or psoriasis, particularly in eczema and psoriasis, are inflammatory skin conditions. So really what we should try and do to help that and to reduce inflammation is to reduce inflammatory foods. So inflammatory foods can be sugar, really causing inflammation in the body, inflammation in the skin and the scalp. So maybe that's one avenue that we could look at. And the other one is dairy. So dairy is thought to cause inflammation in the bodies of some people. So if you're suffering with an inflammatory scalp condition, it might be a good idea to kind of dial back the dairy a little bit and see if that helps you.
But similar to skin, really.
Similar to skin, absolutely.
So obviously you'll have helped so many people with their hair. Can you think of a particular case that really stands out in terms of showcasing the science behind Philip Kingsley?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of success stories at the clinic, but, I do go back to thinking about a particular one a couple of years ago, a lady who I helped, been so unhappy with her hair for such a long time. She always wore her hair up. So ribbons and bows and ties in a way to describe what her hair was really like. And by the time I saw her, her hair she was shedding a significant amount of hair. She couldn't grow it. It was shorter in parts. It was bone dry. There was just so many problems and complications with her hair, but we ran blood tests. I got her onto a really good regime of hair care, heat protection, using the right products, turning down the heat. We stopped the bleach, and it took a long time. It took, over a year, but she was a really good student and she did everything that I asked her to do. And it transformed her hair. And she's now so happy to wear her hair down and show it off. And it's just really heartwarming to see that, the client puts the effort in, but we do the science behind it. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, we are very specialised in skincare. And obviously you are in hair care. So we always obviously recommend to our customers that they are really consistent with their routine, their skincare routine. Is it the same in hair care? And what would you recommend that people are kind of doing on a weekly basis in terms of looking after their hair and making sure that it's as healthy as they possibly can?
Well, you're right. Consistency is key, I think. We can't really expect we don't expect to go to the gym and we've got a fantastic body after we've done one session. It's the same with hair. And there are lots of little things. I always think that hair is it's a regime and it's a journey, but you will get there in the end. I would always say treat your hair like cashmere. Don't be tearing away at your hair with a brush, particularly when it's wet. Treat it gently. When it comes to heat, we can still use heat on our hair. Don't get me wrong, I do. But there are some things that we do with heat that are horrifying to our hair that are causing it to destroy the hair fibre and break off. So, if we're making sure that we dial down the heat, we don't touch our hairdryer on our hair. Now, I know sometimes when you go to a salon, a hairdresser will put tension on their hair and put the hairdryer on the hair. We don't really want to be doing that. That's a recipe for disaster. So turning down the heat, being careful with chemical and colour. We want to experiment. We want different colours, but we need to be mindful that chemical is all damaging for the hair. Be careful with certain accessories for your hair as well. Putting clips in and tight bands can cause some weakness and damage to the hair. So
I used to wear my hair in like a high bun because it was like the trendy thing to do. And my mum was like, you're damaging your hair, but I wouldn't listen to her. But it really did damage my hair, just because obviously it was going in the wrong direction.
Yes, exactly. And you can cause that line of breakage. And it takes a long time to grow hair. So we've got to be patient with it as well.
So just try and leave it alone, basically.
As much as you can. It's just being sensible, a nice, gentle approach to hair, really.
Okay, great. So we're going to dispel some myths about scalp and hair. So I'm going to say some myths and then you can let us know what you think about them. So washing, you've already kind of answered this one. Washing your hair too often is bad for it.
I don't think too often is a thing at all with your hair. You do it as often as you want to.
As you feel.
If you want to wash your hair every day, go ahead.
Okay, great. Natural oils like coconut can fix damaged hair.
Untrue.
Okay, we'll just leave that one there. You should brush your hair 100 times a day for health. I know this was a thing when the younger girls used to kind of sit and brush their hair and
yes, and grandma used to say, brush your old wives' tales, really. That goes back to the days when we didn't have shampoo and the only way to clean your hair was to brush the dirt out. But we don't need to do that anymore. So I would just say brush your hair when it needs tidying up, that's all.
You can train your hair to be less greasy by washing it less.
I love this one.
It's a big one as well, isn't it?
It is a big one. Yeah. No, and because, we can't train our facial skin not to be oily. It's often hormone driven. And so is the scalp as well. So unfortunately, we can't train it not to produce any oil.
Okay. So with finer hair, do you normally have oilier hair if it's finer, or does it just show more because it's finer?
Well, both, because actually people with fine hair tend to have more hairs because they're smaller than someone with thick hair. So, and attached to every hair is an oil gland. So sadly for people with fine hair, we've got more oil glands. So we're producing more oil and it shows up much more quickly on fine hair as well. Yeah.
Okay, hair loss products work instantly.
Untrue. It's a journey.
It's nothing.
There's no quick fix, and there's not one fix for all people either. So it's about identifying the cause and then choosing the appropriate treatment.
Yeah. Okay. Split ends can't be fixed, only cut off.
That is true. Yes. Yeah. We can temporarily glue them together and do a really good job at them looking more tidy, but
especially with the elasticizer.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it needs a trim.
Yeah. Okay. Dandruff means your scalp is dry.
No, the opposite. Dandruff means your scalp is oily, which is really, people don't expect that to be the case. But no, it's quite rare to see a dry scalp actually. But if you were to squeeze the flakes of dandruff, you'd see a little bit of oil come out.
So that's totally different to your skin then? in terms of if you had dry skin, you'd kind of see it?
Yes, yeah, but we don't really tend to get dry scalps because we've got so many oil glands on the scalp.
Right.
There are some dry skin conditions on the scalp you can get, but it's a lot more rare than oily scalps.
So what's going on with dandruff then when you're experiencing that?
So often it's there is an overgrowth of yeast that's in the oil that we're producing. So when the yeast population gets overgrown, it starts to cause itching to the scalp, and then the skin cells start to react by producing much more quickly, and then we see flakes and dandruff. So
interesting. Okay. And then scalp care is just about keeping it clean.
Yes, to a degree. Cleaning the scalp is probably the number one thing that you can do for it. But, using things like a gentle exfoliant occasionally and a toner will also keep the skin in good check as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I learned quite a few things there. So can I just ask you what your top 3 Philip Kingsley products are, just because I'm really interested to know?
For me personally, I mean, elasticizer is the holy grail. There we go. We agree. Because it is the product that I would put on every single head of hair that I see, and you'll see an improvement. So number 1 is definitely going to be elasticizer. For me, on my hair type particularly, I could not live without my bodybuilding weightless shampoo. I've used it for 25 years and my hair never gets used to it, which is something that people often feel. And I think the third one is probably my Bond Builder Lipid Shield, because it's super lightweight for my hair and it leaves my hair really shiny. Couldn't live without those 3.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So we asked our listeners a question that you sent in from us. Do you remember what the question was?
I think I asked, how often do you change your shampoo and why?
Yes,
okay,
correct. So few responses. So every month just to try something new, every 2 bottles as I want to see a change in shine of hair, 1 month when I see my hair isn't feeling the same, if my scalp starts to get dry, which doesn't happen, but she changes it seasonally, when the volume and shine isn't there anymore, so 2 to 3 months.
So interesting. So I do think a lot of people believe they should swap shampoos because there are myths about your hair getting used to a shampoo and conditioner. And it's just not true that your hair will get used to something, because that's almost like saying you've trained your hair to think in a certain way. So I think why people do swap then, from the responses that we've had, is that people are actually not happy. They're not wowed by the result of the shampoo and conditioner that they're using. So they're losing the shine. They want a different result. So brand hopping and choosing something else. But really, if you've chosen the right shampoo and conditioner for your hair type, you should be able to use that shampoo and conditioner every single time and have the same results. So,
okay, so it's about finding the right one for
exactly.
you.
You've got to do the hard work.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I've learnt so much, actually. It's lovely to chat to, not just a skincare. Obviously, I love skin, but to have a hair care expert in has been incredible. So thank you so much for joining.
You're very welcome.
You can all shop Philip Kingsley at faceoffuture.co.uk. And thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget to follow on your preferred platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time for more skincare and beyond.